consider myself a community connector, community strategist, and what that means is I just love connecting people in the community to resources. I love that. And I also love helping nonprofits strategize and meet their goals and for sustainability. And that's one of the ways how I connected with SJAP, the Social Justice Advocacy Project, working with them. And so they were an organization founded in 2016. And so really for them, they just seek to build a community of empowerment tools for those that are disenfranchised, those that are underserved, the last ones, to get the resources. And so they really seek to build a community for better self-determination and ensuring that people have access to culturally competent. Mental health is really integral to that mission. So you're going to hear from one of its members, Brittany Allison. She's going to be speaking a little bit later in the program. But now what I want to introduce a person who's going to be doing our libations. And so for any of you who have not experienced it, you are really in for something special. And for those that have, you know what it is. And so our facilitator for the libations is Danielle Rashan. And Danielle is awesome all around. She is a hypo therapist. She does breathing work. And she's also a school teacher. And she is the mother to 3 awesome kids. And so, yes. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, Danielle.
Thank you, Tamala. Good morning, ladies. It feels so good to be with you, even virtually. My name is Danielle, as Tamala said, and I'm a hypnotherapist and a breath worker, soon to be training to be a yoga instructor, and I teach high school. So, how you doing, sis? I'm stepping outside, so it's kind of bright because we're going to pour libation together. So we do this at times and occasions, especially like this, when we gather and we're going to be sharing wisdom and sharing ourselves. We do this as a way to welcome in the people who are not here, those who have passed on, those who are ancestors. And so a simple libation is calling out the names of your personal ancestors, those on your bloodline, who have transitioned and who are in the ancestral realm where they can now serve us and help us in different ways than they did than when they were here with us. So because we're not physically together, we're going to do it a little bit different. So you can feel free to call on the name of ancestors in your own line. You may want to think of a woman, because we're here today as Black women talking about the issues of Black women, in particular Black women in America. So if you want to think of an ancestor, a woman, whose life told you that she's someone whose energy, whose spirit, whose teachings, whose love would be necessary and welcome in this space. Someone you particularly want to welcome into this space and this time together. So you can think of that name, and if it's not a woman, that's okay too. We also have collective ancestors, those who were noteworthy or famous for one reason or another. So we all claim them as ancestors. You can hold the name of one of those as well. And I'm outside because I'm gonna pour libation, and we do libation with water. At different times we do use spirit, but today we're gonna use water. So you can pour it into a plant or the earth. I'm outside and I'm gonna pour it onto the ground. And so when I count from 1 to 3, we're gonna all say the name of that ancestor or those ancestors, and I will say a short prayer and a libation, okay? You guys with me on that? All right. So gather that name, hold that name in your heart, and we're just going to call those ancestors in to be with us now to bless this space. So when I say 1, 2, 3, we'll all say those names. 1, 2, 3. Carrie Gordon, And here's a libation prayer. Uplifted ancestors, noble, noble dead, remember and renew your great power. Draw on every enriching experience from this side and beyond, your joy, your frustration, your righteous anger, your love, and stir up your individual and collective abilities that you can aid us now from your high seat and your deepest strength. Take the coolness, the regeneration, take the very life force of this water, the Ashe, and let it strengthen and renew you, that you can continue to carry us and grow us during this great shift. Always that we may honor and grow your legacy. Always that your legacy might be made complete in us. And together we say Ashe.
Ashe.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Danielle, for that special moment. Right now, we're going to be going into just a mindfulness moment to continue to ground ourselves in this space, to continue to open ourselves up to what this moment and this event can offer us and what we can offer each other. So right now, I invite us to just shake it out. Shake out the hands, roll the shoulders, let the body wiggle a little bit. And if you've never done any kind of like mindfulness moment before, just begin to listen and allow yourself to experience it fully. I encourage you to reach your arms above head. Grab your left wrist with your right hand, lengthen up, inhale. On your exhale, send your weight over to the right, creating this banana shape. Nice, beautiful. Inhale, back up. Switch wrists. Exhale over to the left. Nice, inhale, reach up. Exhale, release the arms. Give a few shoulder rolls. You might have noticed your body feeling a little tense today. Just take this moment to settle into the body, maybe even sway a little bit. And start to sway yourself into stillness. And that stillness can look like a seated position, or you can lay down if you feel comfortable. Completely up to you, whatever your body's craving right now. Just find that moment of stillness, whether seated or laying down. I encourage you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable. And today we'll take a deep breath in through the nose. And as you exhale, imagine like you're blowing your tea, like you're trying to cool it down. Just release it out of your lips. Inhale. Exhale. One more, just like that, inhale. And let it go. As we remain in stillness, we continue to ground ourselves down, just beginning to notice the earth or the chair or couch that is beneath you. Feel its support. Begin to notice any sounds around you, not necessarily labeling them bad or good, just observing. So we start to make our way inch by inch a little bit deeper. First, just observing our outer space. Notice the temperature of the room or the air on your skin. Now begin to notice the clothing on your skin and how that feels. We'll dive a little bit deeper and begin to notice our muscles, our joints. Maybe you take this time to release the space in between your eyebrows, relax the jaw, Release your shoulders. Take an inhale. And exhale. Start to notice the blood pumping through your veins, your heartbeat. And we'll shift our focus to our mind now. Just beginning to notice the same thoughts that may be running through your mind, that may have been running through your mind all day, all week. And can we acknowledge those thoughts? And as we acknowledge them, we allow ourselves to release them, even if it's just for a few moments. As we shift our focus to our breath. And if you find yourself coming back to those repeating thoughts, have grace for yourself and simply come back to your breath. Notice the inhales and the exhales. Next, we'll drop down into our heart space. Just beginning to observe the feelings that may arise. The emotions that are dwelling there. And let's not be afraid of those emotions. Allow them to be. Our feelings are simply a filter in which we get to experience our life. Check back in with your breath. And going just a little bit of a layer deeper to our beliefs and values. Just connecting with those deep-held beliefs and values. What allows us to stay steadfast in them? Maybe they're what keeps us going. And lastly, can we connect with our truest self? Going into the deepest part of ourself, the purest version of ourself before we even reached this earth. Before the world told us what we should or shouldn't do or who we are. Before conditioning, before insecurities. Connecting with our truest self. Can we take a moment with her or them? What does she or they have to say to you? May you receive those words. We all take a deep breath in through the nose. Release out of the mouth. Two more times, inhale deeply. And exhale completely. Last one. Inhale. This time a big sigh of relief audibly out of the mouth. Maybe you start to sway side to side. Drop your chin to your chest. Wiggle the shoulders. Come back into subtle movement whenever you're ready. And slowly begin to flutter open your eyes. Coming back into this space. Thank you so much for joining me with that.
Thank you, Ash, so much for the mindfulness moment. I hope all of you ladies are ready, that you are relaxed and ready to receive everything that today has to offer. We have some amazing, beautiful Black therapists on our panel today. So once again, my name is Ehmandah Ramsey. I'm a life revisionist, founder of She Stories, and host of Hey Suga Podcast. And I'm so blessed to be in this place today. And I hope that you will receive everything that it has for you today in this sacred space. I'm going to introduce our panel, and then we're going to jump right in, because I know that you're here for a reason, and you're going to get everything that you need and put you on the journey to your healing path. So our first panelist that we have today is Debbie Whyte. She is MPS, ATR, RAPCC, art therapist, psychotherapist, and mental wellness coach. We also have Jammie Peterson, MSW, ACSW, specializing in depression, anxiety, trauma, and people experiencing homelessness. We also have Dr. Jennifer Hutton, PT, DPT, Doctor of Physical Therapy, and a RockTape instructor. And also we have Ava D. Phillips, MS, LMFT, specializing in depression and anxiety. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining us today, our panelists. We're so excited to hear from you today. Hopefully answer some questions that some of you may have. You can definitely put questions in the chat and we'll try to get to them. Ash is going to be our host today, manning the chat. But if you have questions, you can go ahead and slide in there and put your questions in there. So let's jump right into our panelists. That's a lot going on, ladies, right? A lot going on. So tell me, culturally, let's just start here. How have Black women dealt with stress? And that's for any of the panelists, they can answer that question. Culturally, how have Black women dealt with stress? And we're asking that our panelists come off mute. And any one of you can answer that question. Culturally, how have Black women dealt with stress? Let's think about our culture and our experiences as Black women, even our ancestors. How have we dealt with stress in the past?
Well, this is Ava. It says Denise under my name, but it's Ava. Good morning, everyone. I think culturally, we have the label of being a strong Black woman, which means that people tend to think that nothing can faze us, that we can handle everything. And, we have put that out there because that's what we've been taught to do by our mothers, our grandmothers. You just shake it off and you just handle, whatever comes. But I think it's been to our detriment that we have done that because we can't handle everything and we're not supposed to handle everything. And I actually got a text message from one of my friends this morning, and I'm going to read it, and I don't want to offend anybody. There's a curse word in it, but it says, "I owe myself an apology for all the shit I've let slide and all the shit I've chose to deal with and accept." And I think that's how we've handled stress. We either let it slide or we just kind of deal with it. And I think we need permission to know that we don't have to deal with it. So I hope that kind of answered a little bit.
That's true. And that I've seen that with my own women in my family, that we've just pushed our way through and we are expected to be strong. That's like something that's going on social media. It's like, she's strong. But guess what? Being strong, yes, it's okay to be strong, but it's also okay to feel your feelings as well. And this is another question for one of the panelists. How does a Black woman deal with everything that she's going through and still push through her day? Like, how can I do that? I got my family stuff going on. I don't know if I'm going to lose my job. We got this pandemic going on. There's a lot of injustices happen and racism. How can I get through my day with all of that on my shoulders? Any of the parents?
I'll speak to that. I believe that we do it together. I think we all have a group chat on our phone right now where we have unleashed our feelings about everything that we have seen and felt. And you know when time is to stop everything you're doing and give your sister everything that she needs. So I think the benefit of the togetherness right now is this is what you see on a daily basis. This is how we cope. This is how we get through these moments is together.
Yeah, and I really believe that is true, Dr. Jennifer, that we do need our sisters. A lot of times we kind of isolate, especially right now with the pandemic. We're kind of forced to be at home, but we tend to isolate. But it's so important for us to reach out to our sisterhood, right? So that we can have that support. And especially if you have a sister that's been riding with you and rocking with you for a long time, if you talk to her, she's like, something's going on with you, sis. You know, let's talk about it. So be open to share your feelings with your tribe. I want to go.
I know, excuse me, I have the way that the question that it's a twofold, because the first question and the second question, my spirituality fits into both of them. I normally use my prayer life, praying and studying and, you know, just staying in that space. However, that's just one space. We have to use both spaces because sometimes, I mean, not belittling God, but verbally communication in the sisterhood is very valuable. I find myself using both pieces.
Yes, definitely. I believe that's true.
And to answer that, sister, it's absolutely not a singular way of coping. That's just one aspect, but it's definitely variables and multitudes. And you know, even when you're by yourself, you know, you can have your playlist of music that lifts you up, whether it's spiritual or it's, I love house music. I love to like let my energy out with that. So find that music, find that moment to whatever it is. We can create a whole list. And I think we're going to talk about a lot about self-care, which ties into that as well.
Definitely. And I want to go back to Dr. Jennifer, because I think we need to start from the beginning, especially in our culture. Talk to me about thought viruses of history and racial trauma in healthcare. Let's start there, Dr. Jennifer. Talk to me about that.
Well, I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to talk about that was I feel like a lot of our healthcare settings talk about diversity and cultural competency, but they don't talk about how we got here and the reasons why people are not competent. And you have to look at the people, our people who were brought here. We were brought here to be slaves, to do free labor. We were thought of as biologically and intellectually inferior. And all of our medical practices that were built as we were building the country were based around that ideology. There are even diagnoses that were created because we decided to run away or because we got tired and didn't want to work. And there were actual treatments that were given. Like one was, if you whip them and you put them in the sun, then they won't want to run away. There was an actual diagnosis called drapetomania, which means you were mentally ill if you wanted to leave your slave owner. So to have a whole country with all of these systems that we built, but were based on the fact that we were only here for labor, you see that to this day, even in healthcare. Physicians could refuse to treat us. They could say, I don't want to treat that person. Nurses could see someone in the hospital and say, nope, not treating them. That's a Negro. So you have all of these systems, like I said, that were built and ideologies placed around them. So even if it's not an explicit bias that you believe today, where you see whites only and coloreds only, or, you know, this section and this section, you have those beliefs that have turned into implicit biases. So now you might have seen on TV that, oh, you know, Black people have high blood pressure and, you know, they're more likely to have a stroke. But we'll consider all the stresses that we have to face on each and every day. It puts us in that high stress state, which means our bodies are never really at a safe equilibrium. Our equilibrium is literally all the way up here. And so when you're in that stressful state all the time, your body can never rest. You can never find that moment where you can actually release. And so we're contending with that on a daily basis in our lives, with all of these thought viruses in the judicial system, in the education system, in the housing system, and in the healthcare system. And then you go to the doctor and they say, oh, your blood pressure's too high. You need to go work out. Well, the gym that I go to, there's a whole lot of white people and they don't really want me in that space. So it's like a double bind everywhere that we go. So I really feel like we need to focus on our own possible trauma, the things that we face, the way that it affects us, not just mentally, because that is super important, but the brain and the body is connected. So anytime you're experiencing trauma, your body says, yep, this is threatening. And if we can't get out of it, we just got to stay vigilant, focus on the present till we get out of it. And so I think those are the things that we have to consider from past all the way to now, so that we can actually deal with the traumatic piece, so we can take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
That's right. That's so true. I think a lot of times we don't think about our physical body. We think about, mental health, and everything is connected, like you said, and we really have to think about the thought viruses and historically what our people have been through from the beginning of time. And that's so important. And I want to talk to Jammie Peterson. And Jammie, I want you to talk about transgenerational trauma. What is that? What does that look like? And how does that affect us as Black women?
Yes. Hi, everybody. Good morning. So transgenerational trauma is also known as inherited trauma. So it's it dates back to slavery, when the slaves were whipped or abused because they put them in line. It was a sense of control. So I think a lot of Black communities took that into practice to try to whip their children, and they said it came from a place of love. So in the Bible, it would say, spare the rod, spoil the child. So, a lot of Black folks are religious. I'm sorry, it's some noise that I'm having a hard time hearing.
Yes, we're asking everybody really quick, Jammie, if everyone can make sure they're on mute. And also, if you have a comment, to please respond in the chat box, and then we'll have time later for everyone to speak. Thank you. Continue, Jammie.
Jammie, your mic is on.
Sorry. Oh my gosh, technical difficulties. So I was saying in the Bible, it says, spare the rod, spoil the child. So basically it means if you don't whip your children, that you tend to spoil them. So in the Black community, the inherited trauma is a lot of things we can experience indirectly or directly. So if your parent is dealing with their own trauma, being whipped as a child, they're going to pass that on to you, and they're going to whip you, and then you're going to experience this anxiety and depression because you're not sure how to experience it. So a lot of kids, it manifests into the depression because if they don't know what to expect. So it's unpredictable how their parent's going to be. It's the same if their parent is on drugs or alcohol or using substances. They're unpredictable. They're more likely to be neglected and abused. So that trauma is passed on to that child, and they experience anxiety. It's the unpredictability, the instability, and not having the parent there for them. And in the Black community, we're worried about a lot of stressors that we have. Poverty, we have, as Jennifer was saying, we have a lot of health issues on the rise, like diabetes. And, that's just how the system's just designed. It's systematic, and it's just designed to not have the most healthy food. And it just all trickles down. So the transgenerational trauma and inherited trauma is all linked together about how Black culture experiences and how everyone's against us. So our stressors just keep piling on and on. So if you don't address those stressors, your kids are going to get it. And then the kids are going to learn to treat their children the same way. So it's a cycle that it's not going to be broken if you don't work on it and to heal that trauma.
That's so important. And Jammie, while I still have you on this question, how do we as Black women that have children, how do we reduce and manage stress, especially considering all the stressors that you just mentioned? How can we parent better? be more healthy as parents?
Right. So it's a good question, because as I was saying, a lot of us, you know, in our generations, if we're raised, I know I was raised with an older Southern family, so we, you know, we only know what we're taught, right? So a lot of the Black cultures were raised to be independent, we're raised to be strong and to be on our own. So sometimes at 18, you're like, you're out the house because you live your life, you know, you have the skills and this is what you're supposed to do. So we learn chores at an early age, but sometimes what we can do is not shame the kid and to communicate with the kid, to talk with them, to explain that the world is there to help you and that not the world is against you. Because I feel like a lot of Black parents, we have this defense mechanism that, well, we have to protect ourselves. We're always in survival mode. So I think a lot of Black parents can help the kids by communicating, addressing some of their stress, normalizing a few things and not treating them as they're older than they are. Just treat them like they're kids, understand them, process some things that are going through. Just sit and talk with them. I think a lot of Black parents don't do that. They just expect them what to do. They tell them what to do. It's, you know, I was told, be seen, not heard. Get out of grown folks' business. So just some things that we experience is that, well, fine, and I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And, you know, so you don't learn to be a child. You don't learn to, you just don't have that communication. So I just wish more Black parents focus on not shaming the child, focus on understanding the child, and work on their communicating so they can become strong and confident and not so anxiety provoked, because a lot of those things do turn into anxiety down the line.
Yes, so true. Thank you, Jammie, so much. That is so true. You know, growing up, especially depending on your age and what type of parent that you probably have experienced those things. So it's so important moving forward how we raise our children to really have conversations with our kids, because our kids are going through a lot. They're experiencing a lot, not just in school and in the community, but a lot on social media. So it's so important for us to have that conversation and have that open door with them, where they can feel comfortable to talk to us, because they already got so much on top of them. So we need to be there for them as parents. I want to go to Ava. And Ava, now dealing with all of that, how do we as Black women give ourselves permission to feel how we feel? Because sometimes we like, I gotta go to work, I have to do this, I can't deal with my feelings right now. But how do we give ourselves permission to feel how we feel? You have to unmute yourself, Ava. That's okay.
I do that all the time. Okay. Well, I think first of all, we have to realize that we are not giving ourselves permission to feel what we feel. I think that sometimes as we grow up, we learn to take on the feelings of others, whether it's to survive. You know, if you're living in a very hostile home, whether it's emotionally, you know, physically, verbally, you learn to know what everybody else is feeling so that you can know what you need to do to be safe. And so we never learn to think about our own feelings because we're just trying to survive our environments. And then, you know, when you know, as you grow up and you have children, then you learn to deal more with the children's feelings. I don't want my child to ever be upset. I want my child to be, you know, happy all the time. And then again, you're not dealing with your feelings, you're dealing with someone else's feelings and trying to manage someone else's feelings. People do that with their partners. They do that with people at work. They do that with everybody. So first of all, you have to realize that you are not feeling your feelings, you're feeling somebody else's feelings. And then once you get to that point where you understand that, you need to learn to recognize even what your feelings are, because that's why so many people are not in touch with their feelings, because they're not used to even looking at their own feelings and seeing that. And so a lot of times in my practice, I would say probably 90% of my clients have not learned to recognize their own feelings. And then once you do that, then you have to let go of the other people's feelings that you've been holding on to. So that means that if you are, let's say you have a really close friend that kind of you own their feelings, you walk on eggshells because you know that's how they are and I don't want them to be upset. You have to allow them to have their own feelings. So you have to speak your truth. And I know that's kind of sounds cliche these days, but it's just so relevant. You have to learn how to stay present Because if you live in the future, that's anxiety, fear what's going to happen in the future. If you live in the past, that's depression, woulda, coulda, shoulda, about what coulda, woulda, shoulda been in the past. So you really have to stay present, and then you have to allow that person, that friend, to be upset. It's okay. They can be upset. They will figure it out. And I think especially, and I hope I'm not jumping all over the place, kind of feels like I am, but if I am, just try to track with me. Especially with children, if we take on our children's feelings and we don't ever allow them to be upset, we don't ever allow them to get mad, we don't ever allow them to feel sad, it's really a disservice to the child, because then they never learn how to manage their own feelings, right? So we want to give people permission to have their feelings, and them having their feelings may make us upset, but we still have to let them have their own feelings. And then we deal with our own feelings about being upset about that. So I think we need to first acknowledge that we have feelings and that they're relevant and that they're valid. And then we need to let other people have their feelings. Let someone be upset, let someone be angry, let someone think you're not all that, whatever it is, let them have it. They're their feelings, they can own them. And then we just focus, stay present, and concentrate on our feelings and what's going on with us, and deal with that. And if you need help dealing with that, get some help dealing with that, wherever that help comes from. It could be your grandmama, it could be a therapist, it could be anybody. And so, I don't know, I hope I answered it, but those are the main things. It's just really recognizing, being present in how you feel, and understand that however you feel, it's okay to feel that way. If it's not working for you, feeling that way, then you want to get some help or try to change that. But I would say basically that's it. I mean, I could go on and on all day and talk about it, because, well, I actually do talk about it all day in my work. But I think those are the main things. It's just really recognizing your feelings and allowing other people to have theirs. It's okay. Their heads will not explode if they get upset about something. It's okay. You don't have to be there to manage everything.
You're muted, Amanda.
Yeah.
Amanda,
sorry guys. We're all trying to adjust to this whole Zoom world.
Right.
I was having a conversation with a friend, and she was talking about the dysfunction in her family and how she grew up being the emotional stabilizer in her environment. Mm-hmm. And I love how you just talked about it. Like, you have to allow other people to have their feelings. And I know a lot of times we hold back how we feel because right. We don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. We don't want them to get upset. There's so many variables. But it's so important for us to speak our truth. I know it's a hashtag. I know it's the buzz thing that's happening right now, but it's so true, because if we hold back how we feel, talking about the stress, and we're going to talk to Dr. Jennifer a little bit about how it can affect our body, but if we hold back how we feel, we will see the results of that. Right. Mental health in our body, all of those stressors will be active in us because we're not speaking how we really feel. And it's important for us as Black women to do that. So thank you, Dr. Ava. And while I have you, let's talk about microaggressions. What is that? And how have we seen that manifested in the Black community?
Okay. Well, a microaggression is an act that it's not like overt racism and discrimination. It's more subtle, like, for example, so like, let's say you're in a workspace and someone says to you, well, let me use a different example. Let me use an example from my life. When I was in graduate school, I had a friend who was from Argentina. And so, of course, I'm the only Black pretty much in the program. So her and I walked into our cars one day, and we were talking about, we had just come from cultural counseling class. And she says to me, which I think she thought was a compliment. She says, well, when I see you, I don't see you as Black. Because you're so intelligent. So needless to say, I had to have a little talk with her about that. She probably thought it was a huge talk because, and I told her, I said, when you see me as Black. I am Black. This is Black. This is what Black looks like. And so she thought that was a compliment, but that was not a compliment, you know? And so I had to let her know that. And so microaggressions can come in the form of that. It can come in the form of if you are in a meeting and everybody's talking and you're trying to talk and nobody will hear you. It can come in the form of just little comments, you know, and things that people make. It can come in the form of, why did this person get the promotion and I didn't get just all kind of things. It could come in the form of you're in a store and you're being followed around the store, you know, honey, can I help you? Honey, well, no, go help the white lady over there. Go help her because she looks like she needs help. I don't really need any help. So it can come in all forms like that. And it's part of our collective unconscious, as Young would say. We just have has been passed down, and we just kind of, you know, live with it. And it's very stressful. I have a lot of clients that come to me for one reason, and then we always end up talking about microaggressions. And because we tend to just kind of suck it up and say, okay, well, that's just how it is. But it does affect us. It does impact us, you know, all those little comments and things that are made. And we really need to talk it out. And we really need to be given permission to say, you know what, I don't like this. It's not right. And even in the workplace, I need to figure out a way to deal with it because it's very, very stressful. It's very heavy. And we need to acknowledge it. And like I said, be present in that feeling and acknowledge it.
So true. And it's definitely seen so much and happens so much in the workplace. And we tend to culturally sometimes just let it slide and not say anything, but we have to find a place and a space and our voice to be able to share and say, you know what, that was offensive, or you know, we have to find the courage to do that. And that takes time. That definitely takes time. But thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Ava, for that. I want to roll over to Debbie Whyte. She is an art therapist. And I know I've seen this time and time again on social media. Right now, we've been faced with people that are non-Black expecting us to educate them, as it's our responsibility to educate them on the oppression of Black people. And, you know, that's not our job. You know, I'm not here to educate you. We got Google, YouTube. There's so many videos that can share some information with you. So let's talk about that. When we're faced with that, Debbie, how do we set boundaries, not only in that situation, but in everyday life? Let's talk about boundaries.
Okay. Well, before I jump on boundaries, I do want to add to Ava's comments about feelings. I myself got a lot of clients, and we spend a lot of time talking about that. And one of the things I say to my clients is, think of your feelings, your emotions as information. And then ask yourself, what is that information telling me, right? Is it uncomfortable to sit in it? First of all, name the feeling, right? If you can't name it, give it a name. I'm feeling wobbly woo. Well, what is that all about? Do I feel okay sitting in wobbly woo? Is it comfortable? Can I sit with it for a little while? If I can't, what am I going to do to change that, right? So if we start to think of our feelings as information, then we can make informed decisions that honor ourselves and the people we interact with. So that's the mindfulness approach that I always seem to take. And microaggressions, oh, don't you just love them? I had a boss, that office manager. I was a legal secretary. Many of my Jane jobs, Jane of all trade jobs, I was a legal secretary, and she came up to me one day and she's like, where are you from? And she's white and older woman. And I'm like, crazy. Her name is Jane too. So she says to me, where are you from? I'm like, from here. I'm in my 20s. Literally, I was 21 when this happened. She's like, no. Where's your family from? I was like, oh, well, my family's from Jamaica. I'm first generation American. She goes, oh, no wonder you're such a hard worker. And I literally was like, okay. I have to go file. And that's what happens because we don't know how to address that. We didn't have a name for it. We just know it was an awkward situation, right? And so one of the things, to add to what Jammie said, what I did as a parent is I want to make sure that I'm not just raising my boys. I have 2 young men, not out of fear, but I want to be a realistic mommy and try and arm them with as many information and how to life situations as they come about. Can't bombard a 5-year-old with this stuff. They'd be like, what the, you know? But yeah, those 2 things, feelings and microaggressions. Now to boundaries. I usually have this whole little art way of getting everyone together, but it's really more fruitful when you can do it together. And we're such a large group, so I'm just going to spiel out a little notes that I wrote. So boundaries, I basically say, if we can identify the basic, the 3, where's my notes? The 3 common traits, which is rigid, weak, or porous, and healthy boundaries, right? And then it's so important that we make sure we pay attention to the words that we say, right? I'm not weak, I'm not rigid, I'm not, I am healthy, but, we want to make sure that we're not attaching the words that are describing boundaries to our personal character. So we can say, I exhibit rigid boundaries. And a person exhibit rigid boundaries, they tend to avoid intimacy, don't want to be around people. They say no to everything. No, 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 block, 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 whether it's good for them or not, right? So a porous or weak boundaries that I might exhibit is a person who tends to be a people pleaser. They're like, yes, 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 I could do that. Yes, I can climb Mount Everest and get you that random tea. I can do this. Yes, 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 yes. The person that says yes all the time, they want to be liked, they want to please others. But what happens is they end up being overwhelmed, and then they end up shutting down, isolate. It can also bring down a person in depression, right? I'm being very loose with all my descriptions just to get the points across. And then healthy boundaries is what we want to exhibit pretty much. We want to identify when things are good for us and say yes to that, and things that are not good for us, we go no. And one of the ways that I get people to practice that is take a moment to pause. Think about it. If I say, Amanda, you want to go rob a bank?
Amanda needs the money, but she wouldn't do it.
Right, right. If I say, hey, Dr. Jennifer, you want to meet up at this bookstore and have some tea and just talk?
Definitely.
Oh, yeah. See, those are easy. Those can be, well, Amanda had to think a little bit on the robbing the bank part. And we may have that friend that said, come on, it's a good idea. Let's go rob a bank. And then I arm my clients with a script that says, hey, I look good in orange, but not behind bars, right? So there's different ways that we can address our boundaries. And a lot of it is, I say, the power of pause. And also reminding yourself, you don't have to have the answers for everyone. You can take that moment to say, hey, let me get back to you. That's the power of pause, right? You can say, hey, you know what? I would love to answer that question for you, but I think you can research that on your own. It's okay to say no. One of my patients said this, and I thought it was so profound. They were like, no is a complete sentence, right? No is a complete sentence. And we as Black people, Black women especially, we don't know that we can say that. We always got to be like, no, because see, I promised Amanda and Ava and Jennifer that I was going to meet with them. And why we got to explain ourselves? No is a complete sentence. So with the boundaries, rigid, porous, healthy, we can exhibit any of these at any time. When we're in a romantic relation, we might be porous. When we're around our family, it might be very mixed. It might be all over, family and friends, right? We might choose to be porous or rigid or exhibit those behaviors. And when we're at work, hopefully, we're exhibiting the healthy boundaries at all times, right? Although we do know that one person, right? And so I think that I answered your question, Amanda. Yes?
You did. You did answer my question. Thank you, Debbie.
I could go on and on, but
And once again, ladies, you can definitely respond in the group chat. I'm seeing a lot of responses in there, which have been really great, and everyone has been sharing. That's awesome. So please respond in the group chat. And if you have a question, once again, you can also respond there, and then hopefully we'll be able to get to that question. So we have about 3 more questions left for our panelists. This one is for any of one of you guys. How can we, our allies, our sisters from another mister, support our Black women friends during this time? How can our friends, our allies that are on right now, how can they support us? And any of you guys can answer, any one of our therapists.
I'm going to jump on this one because as early as high school, I came across some situations, especially when I started working, and I never knew how the N-word evoked such anger out of me until it was used against me at a job. I was in a movie theater. And one of the things that was very profound to me is when I went back to school to talk about that experience, about how this man called me the N-word. And after I was so nice to him and his daughter, what happened, we didn't have the key to do inventory to sell. I worked in a concession stand. So I gave his daughter some heated popcorn in like a little brown bag so she can enjoy the little kiddie show with them. He came out and was very aggressive towards me and ended with that word. And I just remember I saw red, like literally I must have been all my ancestors evoked out of me, and I yelled at him. I was like, the N-word, I can't even really say it now, but I was like, at the time, I was like, a nigger is an uneducated fool, and I have more education in my pinky than you have in your own goddamn family. Excuse my French, but that was me. I'm a sailor. I'm also a non-traditional therapist. I do cuss. But when I went into school and shared that experience, I immediately saw which of my white friends I can be myself around. And those are the ones I kept. Those are the ones that are now I can call. I'm still friends with a lot of them from high school, and I am 29. But those are the ones that I kept and I can be. So I think anyone that is not Black and wants to be supportive of their friends that are Black, the best thing you could do is acknowledge their experience, even by saying, I have no idea what that feels like, but I could feel your pain. You know, empathize, be an ear, listen. And literally sometimes they add humor, right? I have my girlfriend, she'll call me up and she goes, okay, whose ass do I gotta go kick because they made my girl sad? You know, it's not like we're asking for a lot. We do this for our friends we do the same thing for them, right? I hate to say them and us, but yeah, when we're friends with people that are not just Black, we extend the same thing. We're just asking for the same back. And I think, unfortunately, in society, they do see that Black women, Black girls, there was a study, sorry, I'm jumping all over the place. There's a study I read recently, maybe 2 years ago, where they did young Black boys are seen as either cute toddlers or grown men by the time that they're in first grade. Let that sink in for a minute. And Black girls are seen as overtly sexual by the time they're 8 or 9 than other groups of girls. That they know more about sex than other groups of girls from the age of 8 or 9. That is how society sees us, and it's constantly reinforced in television, movies, you know, even sometimes in our families we do it, right? You know, not to, because I don't want to go on, I don't want to sound judgy, but those are the things that we have. So if we acknowledge that and we have allies or we have friends that can come to us and give us the support we need without trying to tell us how we feel and oh, you should do this. Sometimes you just want to hear. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Debbie. Any of the other panelists want to answer that question?
Oh, this is Ava. I think for me, growing up and, you know, being this child of the 60s, what I need is for you not to act like you understand, you know, and I don't know how else to describe that, but just, you know, I know someone talked earlier about, you know, we should not have to educate people about, you know, racism and things like that. And I agree with that, but for someone who is personally coming to me and wanting to help me, I need them to ask me, how are you feeling about that? What do you think about that? And even say, how can I help you? Because depending on who the friend is and the person is, how they can help me is going to differ. It's going to be different. And so I think mostly just don't act like you know what I'm going through. Ask me how I feel and what I need from you. Because I think it's an individual thing. I don't think all Black women need the same thing. I think there are some things collectively that we need, but we are individuals with individual experiences and lives. And I think that it's good to deal with someone on an individual level.
I agree. I know one of my friends who happens to be white reached out to me probably a couple of weeks or so after the whole George Floyd death that happened and everything that just really started to really blow up in America. And it took her a little while for her to reach out to me, but she said, I want you to know that I love you and I don't understand what you're going through, but I want you to know that I love you and that I'm here for you. And that was so great because a few of my friends have, been a little bit slow about it because they don't know how to approach. Mm-hmm. It's just like when somebody dies, I play funerals all the time and it's hard you don't know what to say, like, oh, I'm sorry, they're in a better place. You're just trying to find words. And sometimes it's very hard to do that. So I think it's very important for the person to come to your friend, come to your Black woman friend, your sister, your girlfriend, whatever you may call her, and really have the conversation with her, but just let her know that you are here for her and that you want to be open to hear what she has to say. Because that's friendship, right?
Absolutely.
That's straight up friendship right there. So thank you, Debbie and Ava, for answering that question for us. I want to go to the last two questions. This one is for Dr. Jennifer. How can stress and anxiety affect our body, and what can we do as Black women to take care of our bodies? Me and her had a really good conversation last week. I was just so excited to talk to her about the different things that she does and the tapes that you see on athlete's arm, like what the heck is that? But Jennifer, talk to us about that. How can it affect our body, and what can we do as Black women to take care of our bodies, our beautiful, curvaceous bodies?
Yes, so beautiful. So the first thing, I said it earlier, but you kind of have to look at how the body responds. All your body is trying to do is keep you safe. So it scans the environment, takes in information and all of the things that you come across, and then it decides, is it safe? Is it not? Can we move on? So when we experience things that are going on, or we see, George Floyd's murder or other things happening, then our body hits stress state like that. And so for if you look at the trauma model, there's an arousal phase, and then there's supposed to be a recovery phase. You're not supposed to stay in arousal forever. And if you have poor coping mechanisms for your recovery, then you're never really going to reach what we call homeostasis. There's no equilibrium. So for us, it's important I like what you said, Debbie, was name it first. You have to name what it is, name it and claim it, and then name your power. What is my power in this moment? Because your power may be, I can speak on this right now, because I think we have entered a free zone where we are able to actually say, no, not acceptable. We actually need to have this conversation now. But if it's something where you feel like I'm going to get to this stress state, I don't have the power, then it's how can I physically get my body to a recovery state? So the first thing I usually go to is breath, because I can control my breath. And you did a great job in the beginning. So I was like, yeah, that's what I would be doing with what I call it box breathing. So it's literally drawing out a box with my breath. And you can choose your seconds. If you are high stress and your heart is beating like this, then I'm going to do 2 seconds each side. I'm going to go inhale for 2. I'm going to hold my breath for 2. I'm going to exhale for 2, and then I'm going to hold my breath. And you just go through that. Another thing I do, if it's an immediate moment, is I look and I name colors and things that are around me, because it takes my attention away from the moment and actually puts it on me. And then I can actually think clearly. The one thing I think we have is We have the trauma model, and we also have, to me, the grief model, because we go through these events, and it's not just that we're high state. We actually have to reckon with the fact that we are experiencing these things. And I had a conversation with one of my friends because she experienced a really traumatic racial event at work, and she works with delivering babies. And she was like, I just can't shake it. I just can't shake it. And I was like, you ain't supposed to shake it. You are literally supposed to feel it, then acknowledge that this is what happened, say that it's not supposed to be like that, and then determine what you're going to do the next time. But if you rush yourself through these stages, then you're never really going to be able to focus in on what happened and then determine what needs to happen next. The last thing I would say is, because we're going to experience these things, even in the midst of this change and this rise of allyship, we're going to continue to see hashtags. We're going to continue to have, microaggressions that come at us. It's important for us to find a safe recovery place, but that means we have to find the things that bring us joy. So I know, Ehmandah, we talked about picking the things like yoga and Pilates or dance. The beautiful thing, one silver lining in all of this, is a lot of these classes are free and on Zoom now. So you can find those donation-based classes. One I love is Ari Spella. She's on Instagram, and she does free Zumba classes or donation-based Zumba classes twice a week. But find the things that physically bring you joy, so that every day you have a lower stress state, so that when you do have those moments that come, you can at least come back to your own recovery base, and it is a healthier state.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. So we have one more question, ladies. And after this last question, I'm going to be bringing up Brittany Allison, and she's going to talk about organization Social Justice Advocacy Project. And then we're going to have a time where we can come together in small groups in breakout rooms and we can relate. Okay, so we've done our relaxing with Ash, we've had the conversation with the therapist, and now we're going to move after this last question to relate. How can we relate with each other? We can talk about it. You can share your feelings and be you in the breakout room. So one last question. This is for Debbie. Debbie, what is art therapy's approach to self-care? Let's talk about that.
Okay, first of all, does anyone know what art therapy is? No, a little bit. So the short answer, because there is a long one, the short answer is a form of expressive arts that, so art therapists are trained psychotherapists, and we use expressive arts to help people improve their physical, mental, or just emotional well-being. It's also used to help people transform. So we do both art and traditional talk therapy, because we're trained psychotherapists. So it's more on the cognitive behavioral therapy approach, right? You identify something and you make a change. So my approach with self-care with a lot of my clients is I actually push journaling. I really push art. I'm an art pusher. And it could look like you get a coloring book, and I don't care if it's the adult coloring book or it's the kiddie coloring book that you see in the dollar store, just something that you can color. You can use crayons, markers, colored pencils, something that's going to take you away in a healthy distraction from any of the things that are causing you stress. I actually have had, fortunately, in my early start of my career, I had a real live example in front of me. A patient was brought into my group, and a nurse came and told me his blood pressure has been high all morning, afternoon. There's nothing they can do. They've done everything, and it's not seeming to go down. So he came to my group, and we actually did an art directive, which I just gave instructions on just creating some art. And I happened to do, I had coloring sheets, but I was playing a little soft jazz and just light music, and just telling people, I want you to just express yourself. Don't even think about how it's going to look. Just do the work. By the end of that group, it was 45 minutes. In that group, they took his pressure. His pressure actually went down. So it does help reduce stress. And it helps to just take your mind off of the things, because I'm sure Dr. Jennifer can really share that we can't think, like she said, we can't think about the problem all the time. That puts so much stress in our internal organs. We put ourselves in a state of fight, flight, or freeze. We are stuck in a freeze mode, and that can wreak havoc on our pressure. It can increase imbalances in our hormones. I'm not medical, but I could tell you that it does reduce your stress if you can find things like art, music. I had said before, create a playlist to get you moving. Dancing is a great way. Why do I push dancing or movement for people who say, I can't dance? Movement to music is because it increases your endorphins, the feel-good hormone. Exercise has been the number one way, or movement of some sort is the number one way to deal with depression and anxiety. What is the other ones? Oh, making yourself a priority, right? You make that appointment to go watch that show. Well, make an appointment to give yourself some self-care. It could be, I'm just going to read a book on the couch with the lights, you know, a nice light, or dim the lights and lay on the couch and listen to soft music. Meditation can come in all different forms, right? It's not just your traditional guided meditation. It can be, if you're a gardener, gardening. If you run. That's meditation in itself. It could be just walking outside and sitting in the park and watching the squirrels. Did you know they give a good show? They really do. It could be anything you throw at me, I pretty much can tell you how you can find a way to use as self-care. And the most important thing I want to say is, even when you're feeling good, keep doing it. And if you can't think of anything structural, then everything that you do can be self-care, from taking a shower in the morning, grooming yourself, getting dressed. How many of us get dressed in the morning and we put the lotion on like this? You just like rushing, right? Well, I'm going to challenge you to massage. Massage yourself. Talk loveliness to yourself. I'm going to have a great day. Sorry, I'm going to stop doing that because that's a little awkward. But I'm going to encourage you to really pamper yourself. And another thing that I'm a big advocate about, and I think at the end I'm going to show my breathing technique that it's not mine, but it's one that I've adapted to and used in a lot of my practice, called alternate nostril breathing. And I'm going to demonstrate that for you guys at the end. I think that's what they had asked me to do. But definitely also take a moment to hug yourself. So let's do that right now. Can we just give ourselves a big hug? And breathe with it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Debbie. Ladies, always remember that self-care is your divine responsibility. You need to take care of you. And whatever that looks like, self-care, please make sure you find space to do it on a daily basis, not just on #Health Self-Care Saturday. You need to do it every day. It's so important. So I'd like to introduce Brittany Ellison from Social Justice Advocacy Project, and she's a part of the How You Doin, Sis team. I love Brittany. So Brittany, take it away.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me? Am I good? Okay. It's been truly an honor to share this space, and I am so excited to watch this community continue and watch the conversation continue. What we envision is a world where voices and experiences are held in an equitable community, where we as a sisterhood bear the burdens of one another's pain and one another's transgression. Actualizing that vision takes work and intentionality, which is why I'm asking my non-Black sisters to join me in signing off now, continuing to learn using the resources that we'll be sending, as well as the Facebook group that we'll invite you to engage in the advocacy towards creating a more just and equitable society. I invite you to join Social Justice Advocacy's Operation Ally. It's a weekly Zoom call for us to be informed on the issues of systemic racism, and then we strategize, organize, and mobilize to actually do something about it. So what we're going to do is we'll turn off the recording.